It's raining, so you could see a little thing there at the background. It's not angels coming, but rain coming down. Our scripture reading this morning is from the book of Psalms, Psalm number 18, verses 1 through 6. Psalm 18, verses 1 through 6. I'm reading from the NASB version of the Bible, and you can listen or follow along in your own particular version. Psalm 18, verse 1 through 6. I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. The cords of death encompassed me, and the torrents of ungodliness terrified me. The cords of Sheol surrounded me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called upon the Lord and cried to my God for help. He heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry for help before him came into his ears. May the Lord bless the reading of his words. Please be seated. This microphone is, I think, a little too loud because I am not in my exciting moment yet. Old age, senior citizens. One thing about old age and becoming senior citizen, you have a lot of advantages and disadvantages. On the disadvantage side, when it comes to this what we call coronavirus pandemic, if you are a senior citizen, you are at disadvantage in terms of survival chances because you are weaker and many who are seniors have existing health problems. But the youth, according to observations, have higher chance of survival. They are stronger with better immunity. The advantage for seniors is that when it comes to wisdom, in Tagalog, talino, or knowledge, or kaalaman, you are at the advantage. As they say, wisdom, or talino, belongs to the ancients. Wisdom, kaalaman, ay doon sa matatanda. But strength and courage, tapang, belongs to the youth. Sabi nga nila in Tagalog, mas matapang, mas mapusok ang mga kabataan. Like what happened a week ago, there were group of young people who still decided to go on spring break. They were courageous. They're still young. They think they are invincible. And many of them come back with coronavirus positive. And that's what God, Jose Rizal said. daig ng talino ang tapang. Wisdom or knowledge is superior than strength. In other words, the stronger does not always win. And we can prove this. Manny Pacquiao has proved this in boxing. Manny Pacquiao, many of his opponents were stronger than him. Oh, but Manny Pacquiao is wiser than that. And he won in many fights. In the movie called The Battle of Midway, Japan had more ships and planes. Oh, but the Americans have wisdom and knowledge on their side. Psalm 18 was written or composed by David when he was already old, much wiser, much knowledgeable. So the question is, what kind of song is Psalm 18? Many call this a song of reflection. In Tagalog, awit ng pag-aalaala sa kahapon. O, in simple words, awit ng muni-muni. Hindi buli-buli, muni-muni. A song that looks back to his colorful life as a shepherd boy, as a warrior in the army of Saul, and as a king, ultimately, of the kingdom of Israel. When was it written? Well, after all the battles and wars were over. After all his trials and struggles were ended. That's a song of reflection. I would say that this is a kind of song that you would like to sing when you are sitting in your rocking chair, sipping your cup of coffee or tea, or after the sun has set, your what we call song of the night. Do you have such a song of the night? Or all you have is the way it used to be? For some people, that's all they have. The karaoke songs. Lonely table just for one. Baka yun lang ang alam niyong awit. Okay. David has the song of the night. What was the purpose of this song? Well, it's a song of thanksgiving for all of God's faithfulness all throughout the life of King David. And also it is a song of testimony about the greatness of God's faithfulness for others to know, so that they would not lose heart in their journey called life if they belong to God, especially to the younger generations. Many have yet to discover how faithful is God. Do you know that God is faithful? Many times, it takes many years before they realize that God is good and faithful. The title of our message this morning is The Greatness of God's Faithfulness. Do you know? Or, simply put it, discovering the faithfulness of God. And I hope that before this thing is over, or after this is over, you will discover the faithfulness of God if you have not yet experienced it or realized it. And the most likely person or persons who can speak of the faithfulness of God are those who have been walking with God for many years in their life. They are the most likely people who can attest to the faithfulness of God because they have been walking and doing this for many years, and now they can testify to you that God is a faithful God. Can you testify to that also? And the most likely people, again, I would say, who can testify are older people, because they have been walking with God, if they are walking with God, all that many years. And again, that is if you are a child of God or belonging to God. Pretty much what like King David did the composer of this song. David gave us the faithfulness of God in this song in three areas. God's faithfulness in times of weakness, verse 1. God's faithfulness in times of winning battles, verse 2 to 3. God's faithfulness in times of prayer, verses 4 to 6. In other words, in verse 1, is your God with you when you have no chance, no hope, no strength of your own? God's faithfulness in times of weakness. God's faithfulness in times of winning battles. In other words, is your God with you when you are faced the biggest crisis or challenges of your life? God's faithfulness in times of prayer. In other words, is your God with you when you call upon Him in prayer? Can you see the answer of God to your prayers? This coronavirus had inspired so many people to pray, to talk about prayers, motivated more to pray and so on. You hear that, you see that, you probably have done it yourself. So our first point is God's faithfulness in times of weakness. Verse 1. I love you, O Lord, my strength. That's the opening verse of this song. This song begins with an expression of deepest emotion. I love you. This is a deep emotion that can only be born out of personal experience of walking with God each day. In other words, people with personal relationship with God, as we have been preaching the past 2 Sundays. It is much like what many senior couples feel with each other after years of loving each other through all the trials and hardships of life. When they're already towards the end of their journey, they are still together, faithful to each other to the end. In Tagalog, they call it walang iwanan, pero may tampuhan. Question is that true to you? David can sing this loud from the balcony of his palace, I could imagine. Perhaps many people would like to sing this kind of song when this crisis or pandemic is over. Especially those who are weak and vulnerable, or those who have been infected and yet recovered. They would probably love to sing a song like this. And no one feels more weakness than for those who are already old or getting old. Much like what David felt at this time when he wrote this song. But I have good news to those who are old or are thinking of themselves as getting old or feeling old. And some people are not that old, but they feel old. Old age is not always just an indication that you are at the beginning of your of the end of your life journey. Because some people think that, oh, when you're old, you are now in your downhill walk or journey. Some may think that way, that's old age. All it means is you are nearing your end. On the contrary, old age could also be the beginning of a new adventure or success in your life. Dr. McGee said that his biggest ministry started after he retired from pastoring of many years in a local church. He pastored a local church for many, many years, and now he's retired, he's old. Oh, but he said, you know what? I found out that I was just at the beginning of my biggest ministry. Yeah, that's old age. That's the advantage. And you know what? If you know the composer Beethoven, he made many of his best compositions or sonatas when he was already considered old and lost his hearing also. Handel, on the other hand, another great composer, created his best masterpiece composition, the Messiah, at age 56. And during his time, age 56 is considered old at the time. Modern medicines and technology lengthen the life of our generation people. Handel composed the Messiah when he was already sickly, almost bankrupt. No one would lend him money to create his composition.